The music.
The tourists.
Freedom of speech.
The boats.
The bridle path.
Think you know Manchester? Think again. Visit manchester.com sponsors I Love Manchester.
Welcome to I Love Manchester, our guide to the successes and secrets of our city. Today I've come to an area which is the embodiment of a lowland English market town, where you can find remarkable picturesque scenery, wildlife, history and attractions. It's home to some of the most eccentric buildings in Britain, and if you were mesmerised by the settings of Elizabeth Gaskell's 19th century novels, then this was her inspiration. Yes, today I've come to Knutsford, in the leafy area of North Cheshire. Knutsford is said to derive its name from the Danish king Canute, who supposedly forded the River Lily in 1016. The name Knutsford appears in the Domesday Book of 1086, and many names of Danish origin are found here.
Knutsford is brilliant, and the minute you get there, I think you can't help but be impressed with the architecture, particularly in the centre of the village, although all of it's very beautiful.
It didn't have all the industrialisation that, say, the Greater Manchester towns did, because it is really more in Cheshire, more in deepest Cheshire. So it never had that massive industrial thing. It did have some industry, but it didn't really get the big mills. So you get these lovely old gentle Georgian and early and 19th century buildings, but very gentle ones, country buildings.
As you drive down the main street, you've got the terraced row on your right-hand side, all the little shops and restaurants. And on the other side, you've got shops, you've got fabulous restaurants. Of course, the Belle Époque is in the middle there with its beautiful tower, and that looks gorgeous.
The famous novelist Elizabeth Gaskell spent most of her life unmarried in Knutsford. The Gaskell Memorial Tower acts as a remembrance to her in Knutsford town centre. Her novel Cranford is set here, and the house where she grew up with her aunts can be seen on what is now called Gaskell Avenue.
She was a great character novelist, so she could pick up people's characters and write about them and capture them. And in Cranford, which was her name for Knutsford, she really does do this to good effect. And in some of her novels, such as Ruth, which is really about single parenthood, like getting a baby out of wedlock, you know, these were shocking themes for the Victorian. For a woman to be writing about it was doubly shocking.
This row of Georgian houses was also the residence of the notorious Edward Highwayman Higgins, a gentleman by day and a thief by night. Unfortunately, Higgins didn't have a street named after him and was hanged for his crimes in 1767. Knutsford has some weird and wonderful buildings, which were partly influenced by a millionaire Manchester glove manufacturer who had a very personal vision of Mediterranean architecture, and which he then imposed on lucky Knutsford.
But then you got this crazy loon called Richard Harding Watt, who was a Mancunian glove manufacturer, and he made some money, so he moved out to Knutsford, and he loved Mediterranean styles of architecture. And so Knutsford's visited by this extraordinarily weird sort of hodgepodge Mediterranean architecture.
The Belle Époque is Knutsford's flagship restaurant and is situated in one of Richard Harding Watt's buildings. The restaurant was famously used as a location for Brideshead Revisited, and the Venetian glass floor, marbled pillared alcoves, lavish drapes and cosy recesses combine to create a wonderful atmosphere. It has been owned and run by the Mooney family for 30 years. Matthew, there are many eccentric buildings in Knutsford, and this has to be one of them.
Certainly, very eccentric. It's eccentric by design. The real passion behind it was a gentleman who's a glove manufacturer from Manchester, Sir Richard Harding Watt, and he built the building. He was the architect of it. He created something that was totally unique, never been done before, and it's replicated in several residential houses within the area, but this was his first building, and one that his real passion for all things of the Art Nouveau era came to the fore. Everything from original copper, canopied fireplace. The tiles we can't remove because they contain arsenic, but that's how they got the dye in the day. And it's, you know, have been touched by, humans throughout the last 100 and so years, and it's very much eating, sleeping part of the building itself. This is the areas you can see that are essential to the building. You couldn't possibly live without two 80-foot columns at the side of it, could you?
Watts also adored birds. All his buildings are covered with projecting stones and bricks to allow them to perch. Not only is it a wonderful building, but now you've actually made it yourselves into a flagship restaurant of Knutsford.
Yes, my family opened the Bella Pot Brasserie over 34 years ago, which in restaurant terms is probably the equivalent of 100 years in any other business. Through the early years, my father trawled antique shops when you used to be able to find actual original items and at bargain prices, such as the lady statue here, which is an original bronze. The actual restaurant and its decor and how we approach things is totally in keeping with his original philosophy of be individual, sod practicality, let's go for passion, and that's what we do.
Examples of Richard Harding Watts' architecture in Knutsford include the Ruskin Reading Room in Drury Lane and the fantastic houses on Lee Road, which have been called the maddest sequence of villas in all of England. This became suburban Shanghai for the Spielberg film Empire of the Sun.
It was eccentric to the last, Richard Harding Watts. He was a bit cheesed off, apparently, that along Lee Road he'd built all these amazing houses. I mean, people should just go and look at them. They are really odd. People had grown very high hedgerows, so he couldn't see the houses properly. So he used to stand up in his carriage as he went along Lee Road to peep over the hedges. And on one occasion, some wind blew in front of the horse that was pulling him. The horse reared up and he fell on his head and died. It was a man who was in love with his houses, I suppose, and his architecture, and they were his pride and joy. So what a way to go.
But if you think architecture, Elizabeth Gaskell and beautiful food is all this corner of Cheshire have to offer, well, you'd be wrong, because just on our doorstep are some of the best visitor attractions you'll find around Greater Manchester. Now, this is one way to get to work of a morning, and something actually Knutsford is very famous for, its collection of penny farthing bicycles. But to be honest, I don't think I'm going to last very long on one of these. Right, okay, hoist myself up. Oh! Right, here we go. Oh, don't let go. Please don't let go. I'm off. Oh, beep. Sorry. Taking over the road. Here we go. Oh, God, I'm going quite fast.
I just got hooked on the appeal and size of the big wheel and became an enthusiast. I still am, and I'm still, unfortunately, finding some that I can't resist. The Penny Farthing Museum is showing machines that were made during the life of the penny farthing, which was only very short. Starley designed the first one, or invented the first one in 1871, and after the chain was invented in 1885, the penny farthing then only lasted until 1891, so it's a 20-year manufacture. And my ideal from very early on was to try and get the best machine for each year of manufacture to house in my collection.
Well, I'm not all the way down yet. I'm straight. No, I'm going. I'm going. Now, apparently, if you can manage to ride one of these things unassisted, then you will get a free cup of tea at the Penny Farthing Museum, so I think I was nearly there. Oh, God, I've just got to try and get in. Thoroughly well deserved, I think. The cake is very good too. All that hard work doesn't go to waste. Now, if you're bad at timekeeping, then you'll definitely have no excuse to be late here, as this is a collection of over 600 Cuckoo clocks, which makes it the largest collection on display in the world, and they really are beautiful pieces, almost timeless, you could say.
Today you're going to see the world's largest collection of antique cuckoo clocks. Everything in our house was made within a 25-mile radius of each other, all in the Black Forest in southern Germany. My brother and I, who own and collect the collection, I've been doing it for over 35 years, and now it is considered the world's largest collection of antique cuckoo clocks. When I left school at the age of 15, I was offered good jobs, engineering or the building trade. I didn't fancy either of them, so I got an apprenticeship as a clock repairer in Manchester. And I did 7 years along with my brother in Manchester, and during that time we started collecting the collection, and it's grown to what it is today. People come in here and they come back time and time again because there's too much to see, and on my guided tours I have to vary them here, there and everywhere so that people get different stories about where we've acquired them and when we acquired them and what the movements are all about and what the operations are. This clock was made in 1842 and we bought it from the original family that owned it. We have names for all the clocks in our collection. We call this one the toilet seat.
If you like our more feathered friends, then try the Gauntlet Birds of Prey Centre. Graham, this is Roger and he's absolutely beautiful. He's massive though. Are owls usually this big?
I mean, with the eagle owl, they're obviously built for getting that bigger prey, so those talons are all important, and the feet. And he would naturally hunt things like rabbits and foxes, that sort of thing.
How many variety of birds do you have here then?
We've got about 80 birds all the time out on display to the public. We've also got bald eagle, martial eagle, tawny eagle, all very, very different. And the eagles are just very, very big and impressive, so people never really get up close to them, so they can hear.
Very colourful, big orange eyes.
Well, that's the thing that seems to draw the kids in and the people. They love those big, bright orange eyes. Roger's just a very easygoing chap. He just loves spending time with people. He's been hand-reared, so he doesn't look on himself as an owl. He looks on himself as a human being, and sometimes I really do believe he's got a bit of human being qualities, really.
OK, I fancy learning the art of falconry now.
No problem at all.
OK.
I'm sure we can introduce you to one that'll work very nicely with you. Well, this is Russell. He's going to be your first bird you're going to meet. Russell's a boobook owl. He's from Australia, and he's quite an unusual owl because he's got these 2 forward-facing toes and 2 rear-facing toes. So we're going to start off with him. So before we do anything, we have to remove all these bits of equipment. Once we've done that, he's pretty much free to go.
So do I need to put my glove on?
Yeah, here's your gauntlet.
Okay.
We need to wear on the left hand.
My gauntlet. Okay.
That's right. And then what we're going to be doing with this owl is we're going to be sending him away, and he just goes whizzing off, and he's going to be having a bit of a chicken's leg today.
Can he smell that straight away?
No,
I can see
birds
him
of prey
looking.
can't smell, believe it or
Really?
not. Only the vultures can smell.
Wow.
So this bird has to detect all his food off eyesight, and in the wild he would use his hearing. Put your arm out to the side like that, and then Russell comes straight away for you.
That was quick, that was. Good feast. You're enjoying that, aren't you?
Places to go with JMPTE sponsors I Love Manchester. Places to go with JMPTE sponsors I Love Manchester.
The Greater Manchester area was home to some of the most powerful and influential families in England over the centuries. From the Davenports of Bramhall to the Traffords of Trafford Park, and Knutsford was no exception, for this was the domain of the Egerton family, who lived in the Georgian mansion Tatton Hall.
Tatton Park has to be my absolute favourite place in Knutsford. I adore it. I think it's something like 600 acres, and I've spent so much time there chasing horses around that I've fallen off and couldn't catch. But I still love it, even though some of the worst things that have ever happened to me have been in Tatton Park off the back of a horse.
We've got Tatton Park down the road here. What a seat of history that is, with more stately homes in the northwest than anywhere in the world.
And of course the deer roam free in the park, so that's got another plus to it.
Tatton Hall's a fantastic day out because you've got this beautiful hall, and that's not far away from here. It's about 20 minutes and you're in the middle of this beautiful park, this beautiful hall.
Tatton Hall is situated in Tatton Park with its 2 historic houses, the mansion and Tudor Old Hall, all of which are set in 2,000 acres of lakes, tree-lined avenues and herds of red and fallow deer. The mansion is the jewel in Tatton's crown. It offers a truly fascinating glimpse of the style, taste and history of the Egerton family. I was lucky enough to be given a tour of the mansion with one of its longest-serving staff, Marion Littler. So Marion, this is the mansion that was owned by the very powerful and influential Egerton family.
That's right.
What did they do for a living then to be able to afford such a great mansion?
Well, mostly they were landowners. One of the Egertons, he had a lot to do with the Manchester Ship Canal.
The Egertons were a powerful and influential family who not only worked on the Manchester Ship Canal, but also commissioned the building of the Bridgewater Canal. And with all their wealth, they also liked to entertain in style. So this is the very lavish music room. Wow.
That's right, yes.
Is this silk wallpaper?
Right. That is. That's silk, yes.
Gosh, so how old would that wallpaper be?
17th, 18th century. It's kept really well. That's why we need to have the blinds down for conservation, you know. We need to protect for other generations, really.
And all this furniture here, was this purchased by the Egerton family themselves?
Yes, that is. Most of the furniture in Tatton Park is their own, and that's why I think it is so nice. It's such a complete country estate.
Of course, entertaining so many guests required a big kitchen and plenty of servants.
Have you seen the weight of the pots? Imagine that.
Oh,
imagine that full of water, boiling water.
They must have been very fit.
They must have been, mustn't they?
Look at the size of this frying pan. No, just look at this. Frying pan, you could make a good pancake in that. The Egertons were also keen horticulturalists, and fittingly the RHS Flower Show is held here. Tell us about the variety of gardens that you have here.
Well, we've got Italian garden, Japanese garden, English rose garden, the vegetable garden, which is one of our more recent projects, and the orchard. And the nice thing about the Egertons and their sort of exploits here at Tatton was that they just added more to the garden. As each generation came along, they just built gardens that were really trendy and fashionable, and they just extended the garden. They didn't build gardens on top of gardens like lots of places did. They just had so much, but they just carried on and just made the garden bigger and bigger.
This was the location as well for lots of films on television, wasn't it?
That's right, and I mean, when I first came here, I remember Brideshead Revisited was made. I remember John Gielgud going across with his bacon sandwiches in the morning before he went on location.
So how much looking after do these gardens take? I imagine it's quite a big job.
They take a lot of looking after. I've got a staff of 14 full-time, and then we've got some volunteers as well, which we're grateful for. And it takes, you know, it is just one end of the year to the other.
They really are fantastic gardens. Are they open for the public to come and enjoy as well?
Yes, they're open to the public all year round, except on Mondays each week, unless it's a bank holiday, then we're open all the time. So yeah, we're open every day except Christmas Day.
My kids are teenagers now, but when they were small, I spent ages there taking them around. They've got a little farm, and you can go around and see all the little pigs and the ducks and the chickens, and you can buy food to feed the chickens and the hens.
Set in a corner of the park known as Tatton Dale, the home farm in its heyday was at the heart of the vast Egerton estates, feeding family, guests and staff at the mansion, as well as servicing the park and the outlying properties. Tatton Dale has changed little, and you can still see the original buildings, some of the farm implements and, of course, the livestock. Jane, you work here at the farm, which was the place that was responsible for feeding the Egerton family many, many moons ago, but it's a working farm now, open to the public. These are two adorable goat kids here. How long have you had these?
These are just about a week old now, and this is Lily and Tulip, and they're very popular already with the visitors. Obviously we're very popular with families, younger families, and we have about 50,000 visitors each year, and we also have loads of school visits as well. In fact, the children actually come as evacuees because we do World War days, so they learn about cooking and rationing in the cottage. And then they all have an air raid siren at the end of the day, so they're great fun as well to get involved with.
Do you enjoy it here as well?
I love it. I've been here for 17 years now, and we have lots of events through the summer. We've just recently had a dog show, fun dog show. We had 700 entries this time, so it was brilliant.
So it's a miniature version of Crufts, though, for Tatton.
Well, Crufts or Scruffs, I'm not quite sure. We do have a class for Scruffiest, but it's certainly good fun.
The Edgertons of Tatton may well have been keen travellers, but there's an institution just nearby to here that's dedicated to the exploration of places much further afield. Well, Ian, you can't really miss it, can you?
Well, no, you certainly can't. I mean, it stands up above the Cheshire Plain. It's an icon of British science and technology, and you can see it from the hills beyond Macclesfield right across to Chester. So anywhere more or less in Cheshire, it towers, well, at least in the distance, above the horizon.
You know, my first memory of Jodrell Bank was when I was a kid at school, because if you grew up around this area, everybody went on a school trip to Jodrell Bank. It was like the school trip. And it's not until you get a bit older that you really appreciate what a fabulous feat of engineering it is.
University was given some land in Cheshire, the University of Manchester, by some ladies before the Second World War. And the botany department had some proving grounds here. Now, during the war, Bernard Lovell, who was the founder of Jodrell Bank, he was working on radar and became aware of echoes that no one understood. They weren't from aircraft. He thought they were caused by cosmic rays coming into the Earth's atmosphere. And so when the war ended, he got some army radar equipment. He tried it out at the University of Manchester on Oxford Road, but the interference from the trams going up and down Oxford Road just was useless. So he brought his radar trailers out here in December 1945, immediately got lots of echoes, and realised very quickly they were nothing to do with cosmic rays, but everything to do with shooting stars. Have you seen a shooting star or a meteor trail across the sky?
No.
So we studied those, and that was the start of it. So we've come into the Lovell Telescope control room. The centrepiece, of course, is the main control desk, where our duty controller can actually keep a watching brief on what the telescope is doing, and he can make sure that everything is operating just as it should.
So Ian, what am I doing here?
Well, you're speaking into our whispering gallery. We've got two parabolic dishes, the same basic shape as our giant Lovell telescope, and those telescopes reflect sound waves just as well as they reflect radio waves. So although you're about 100 yards away from me, if you speak into your dish, then the waves get reflected down to this dish, concentrated here at the focus where my ear is, and I can hear you just as if you were a couple of feet away.
It certainly beats the old paper cups and string.
Previously, you could only view the telescope from about here, and the telescope was often looking up to the south, and you couldn't see inside. But now, no matter what it's doing, you can actually have a very good look. And if we can encourage a few of our young people to become astronomers and physicists, that would be great.
This is ground control to Major Tom.
Next time on Isle of Manchester, I explore the town of Oldham, visiting Alexandra Park, the town's repertory theatre at the Oldham Coliseum, and take to the stage for some Indian dancing.